Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining in. Welcome, Lone, Mason, Bill. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream. We have a lot of things popping up in pre-market. We have Boeing exploding. NVIDIA is doing very well this morning off of news that they have a 4-for-1 stock split. And if we remember with Amazon and Tesla, when they announced their stock split, their stocks just exploded. So this is awesome to see out of NVIDIA. They're a great company for the long term. And this split news is just really giving them a boost in the short term, too.
Yeah, for sure. NVIDIA is really flying up this morning, hitting 610 in pre-market. And man, all this stock split news is just awesome. It really drives buyers in, especially once it actually splits. I think that a lot of retail traders specifically can grab it a lot lower. Obviously, there's still fractional shares that people can get, but I just think that if NVIDIA goes down to like $200, it'll be a lot easier for people to buy it, I will say. But man, this is awesome to see a lot of these stocks popping like this. Initially off open, NVIDIA looks like it's catching some red right now on the 1 minute chart. So we'll have to see what happens. But overall, amazing pops in the morning and up around 20 points from like 590. So it's just amazing moves overall. And man, NVIDIA is just an awesome company. And I'm not surprised they're doing a split at all.
Hunter said it's Zooming. Check out Zoom actually though. So NVIDIA is Zooming, but also check out Zoom. That's doing very well over the past week or so. They're trying to run this morning. They're up around 1%, as a lot of stocks are, but I love this company for the long term and even for the short term. But yeah, I think they look pretty solid. Then we have Bill saying good call on Enphase. Enphase exploded this week, and they're still up today. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a pullback today. They have support right around 142, and then after that, they have another support right around like 140. But, at the same time, they are a powerhouse stock, and I also like this one for the long term, and they have a ton of momentum in the short term.
Yeah, you've been talking about them ever since they were all the way down here, like $110. So just awesome call outs, Mike. It's really ran back up. One of those awesome stocks that you could have bought. And man, like Enphase, PLTR, Zoom, man, I know that all these have just been amazing off the supports. And that just goes to show, whenever these stocks are at support, and especially when they're down this far from all-time highs, it's just a good time to buy dips, and it doesn't mean you have to hold forever, but you can at least buy that dip and sell out a few days later or anything. But overall, those dips are just awesome, especially when they're hitting the supports like that. And it just goes to show that those supports do hold up.
Alrighty, so let us know what stocks you're watching. Thank you for joining T, Simon, V. We have V saying, what about Peloton today? Let's check it out. Peloton is pulling back a little bit right now. They have a huge support at $100. If they can't hold this, their next support is right around $99. Then right after that, they have another pretty big support right around 98.
Yeah, overall, this one looks pretty crazy. If we go to that daily chart, it's really been down year over year, or not year over year, but since the beginning of the year, I should say. And it's right here, like it bounced off the support at $80. I think that Peloton might start to slow down as we're nearing some resistances at like 102, 103. But overall, just it's really recovered back up nicely. And I think that if we see the overall growth stocks go up, then Peloton will go up with them, but just looks like today that it looks like it's trying to pull back a little bit as of now. But hopefully, as the day goes on, it can kind of pop up above 102.
All right. So if we look at like ARKK intraday right now, and even if we're just looking at like stocks that are like more of the growth stocks that popped a lot yesterday, they're starting to pull back a little bit right at open, but the market's only been open for like 3 or 4 minutes. So that's one thing to notice. But at the same time, we have the Dow kind of rocketing up. Check out DIA, Tom. They're really rocketing up. Home Depot's looking pretty decent. And just Dow stocks are they've just been on a tear lately.
Yeah, they have. I mean, man, we can go look at them. Home Depot, they're kind of recovering back up. Walmart, you can see they're actually catching green today. Caterpillar trying to pop up today as well. They did drop slightly at open, but man, it's just awesome to see the markets recovering back. We've been seeing a lot of negative news, and a lot of people are kind of expecting the market to keep going down. And it's just awesome to see the double bottom holding up. And overall, we see the market kind of dip down and then go back up quite a bit. So I think that it could still have a chance to fall. It's just as of right now, to end the week, it looks like we're having some good momentum back to the upside. And that doesn't mean the sentiment can't change today, but it's just great to see the SPY, the Dow, and the QQQ all popping pretty well this morning. And I will say, though, the QQQ looks the less strong of the three, which is a little bit strange, but tech has been kind of exploding the past 2 days. So it makes sense for a small pullback.
All right, and then we have Simon saying Walmart and Cat today. I'll get it. So let's check it out. Walmart and Cat. So these are two value stocks. Walmart is looking pretty solid. The intraday, they look pretty good. They're just one of those slow and steady stocks. Sometimes they can be awesome for day trading, and even just like shorter term swing trading, because their expected moves are so small. But at the same time, they don't have like crazy movement intraday like Tesla. So it's kind of like a push and pull scenario. And then if we look at Cat, they're looking okay, not as good as Walmart right now. It is making higher lows intraday, which is good. Do you have any thoughts on either of these, Tom?
Yeah, Cat, I actually have a pretty good support at 235, which it bounced off of this morning. And I think that this might hold up. It's above the 1,000 and the 100 SMA right here. It looks like Cat's trying to bounce back up right now on the 1-minute chart. But I will say it looks like it's going to hold this 235 support. And it looks like it might try to maybe come back up to maybe 238. Where it opened up a couple days ago and then started falling back down. And I will say Cat looks pretty decent today, especially with the Dow kind of running up. I will say if it starts to tank off below 235, then obviously be a little bearish on it. But I think as long as we hold 235 today, it looks like a pretty good setup to me.
All right, and then we have, let's see, Corbin saying, morning, what is up with Snap? Let's check it out. Snapchat, they are down around 1% today, and they just killed it yesterday. To me, it just looks like kind of like a normal pullback. I don't see any like major catalyst with this right now. And just a lot of stocks that really popped yesterday are starting to pull back at open. I mean, the market's only been open for what, like 6 minutes. So I've just been seeing a lot of like stocks that popped yesterday pull back so far. Snapchat to me still looks like it's in like its daily uptrend. But yeah, it's definitely pulling back intraday.
Yeah, apparently there was a report yesterday suggesting that the company actually surpassed 500 million active users. So that's a pretty big statement there, and that's probably why they popped midday. There was a lot of volatility there, and today I can't tell you why it's tanking off, but one thing that has been happening lately, we've been seeing it quite a bit, is where we'll see a stock have really good news and then tank off a couple of days later, and we kind of saw that with AT&T. If we go to this daily chart, you can see they had some great news, popped up to like $34 on this day, and then just tanked off over the next 2 days. And it's just one of those weird things where we're seeing that a lot lately, where companies will have great earnings or great outlooks come out, and then they just tank. And it's just a very weird situation.
Alrighty, and then we have Sean saying, in on AAL puts, how we looking? So Sean, I'm gonna be honest with you, I kind of like AAL calls for like a couple month swing trade. And I've been following some smart money that bought into AAL.
This was my day trade, Mike.
Yeah, yep, no problem. But I'm talking for like a
gotcha.
A swing trade. So there's been like smart money that put a couple million or like 40 million into AAL calls for a couple months swing trade. So I like it for that. For a day trade, it can be great though. So Tom, fill us in. What's going on with this on like for intraday?
Yeah, intraday, I went ahead and posted in our day trading channel. If it falls below 22.75. to grab some puts, and it went ahead and at open it popped right above that on the 1 minute and then fell right below it. So if you could have got in for a quick little scalp there from 22.75 down to like 22.52, right now it's popping back up, so maybe it'll hit 22.75 and then start to move back to the downside. But like Mike said, for the longer run, it's probably going to be a good call play rather than a put play if you want to swing it for the long term. But generally, keep in mind that these day trades that we post in our Discord for free are keep in mind those are meant to be very quick trades. So this one would have been a very quick scalp to the downside, and you could trade it, you could hold it a little bit longer, but as of right now, like if it pops back above 22.75, then I would look to exit.
Alrighty. With the next question, we have Matt saying, what's resistance on Microsoft? I'm in the Microsoft $247.50 call options that expire next Friday. So how are they looking? How is Microsoft looking? It was popping up really well this morning. He said he's in the $247.50. So that's at the money, which is good. I'm not sure what price you have it at, but I think the setup looks pretty solid. It's not my favorite, but I think we are coming to a pretty decent sized resistance level. Let me pull up a couple different charts right here. Yeah, I mean, to me, it looks like we are coming to a pretty decent sized resistance level, right around like 248 to 250, you can say. In the past, it has struggled a lot around that level. And when I say that, I'm looking on, what is this, April 6th, and then I'm also looking on April 5th, or no, May 5th, I should say, and then again on May 14th. So it's not bad. Microsoft is a powerhouse, and historically they've risen a lot more than they have fallen, you can say. So I like it in that sense. But like I said, it's not my favorite setup, but it definitely isn't bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. There's like a little bit of a double bottom down here around like 238 to 240. I would have liked it better around those levels to grab it rather than here around the resistances, like Mike's saying. I think it's more of a timing thing right now. I think Microsoft will end up going back up. It's just the question is will it kind of will it consolidate at around this resistance for a couple days, or will it kind of take a few days to break that? Is my main concern here. I just think that you it might have been a little better to get it around 240 or even 242 off of that support would have been pretty good. But yeah, right now it is getting close to that resistance. So I would be a little bit worried, but it could break that. But like Mike said, it's definitely moved off of that a lot in the past. And generally when we see that, it will move off of it again. And that doesn't mean it'll go back above it the next day or anything, but it's definitely a little bit of a risk. And generally that's not the best thing to hold.
And a lot of it also depends on like the overall market sentiment. Like we can see yesterday, the market just exploded and basically everything was up. This morning, especially with the QQQ, we're seeing a decent sized pullback. And when I say that, I'm just speaking about like intraday. The market gapped up and then it's just been not like it's been selling off at open, but we're still green on the day, and we're kind of seeing a similar situation with Microsoft in a lot of other stocks. So just keep that in mind. The overall market has a huge influence on that. And then, guys, let us know what stocks you're watching. Tom and I will cover them. But then we have Corbin saying, how about Apple? So this setup should be pretty similar. Apple is actually selling off a lot more than Microsoft, actually. Their next major support is around 126, and they fell right below that 127 support. So that's not a good sign. I wouldn't necessarily bet against them right now because, one, they're a powerhouse, and two, it's not like the market itself is like tanking right now. I would be pretty neutral on Apple until they like bounce off 126, maybe like for like a dip by then, or until they like pass above, maybe you could say like 127.70 for like a call day trade.
Yeah, oh boy, this is pretty terrible looking out of Apple, honestly. I mean, sometimes we see this, which is a little strange out of Apple, where they just go parabolic and start moving all on their own. And obviously that makes a little bit of sense, but it's pretty crazy to see Apple this far down. And let's go check out the QQQ just to put it in comparison. And we can see the QQQ is just very, very slightly red, nothing near as bad as Apple. So it's just very strange to see Apple kind of like underperforming very slightly, but it's just a little bit of movement. It's not the worst, but like Mike said, definitely make it fall below like 126. I think that'll be a better way to trade this today. If it falls below that, then it might be a pretty good time to maybe scalp some puts for like a very quick trade. But I think that we're going to see a lot of chop in between here. And I think people will try to buy Apple back up maybe.
Tom, we got to check out two monster stocks from this morning, and the first one is Roblox. It's up around 5.5% already, and it's getting really close to its all-time high, right around $83.41. It is really just exploding at open. I'm trying to see if there's any major news on it, but look at this movement.
Yeah, this is absolutely insane. Wow. I mean, I cannot believe we're seeing this move 5%. And man, this is just awesome. I'm sure the calls are just killing it today. If we go look at that daily chart, you can see it's really kind of consolidated for the past couple months. And it looks like it's trying to break out now. And hopefully that can start to happen. I know a lot of people have talked about Roblox, and it's just one of those things. I think a lot of people played the game as a kid. So that's why a lot of people were talking about it. But I think it's going to be a pretty good, it looks like it's at least moving pretty well for the next couple of days. So hopefully we can keep up the momentum and maybe come back up to that all-time high of 83.41.
Give us some levels. What should we be watching? Because I know that it has like a ton of momentum right now, and it's up around 5.5% today, which is nice. But it is like in the past, like it'll sometimes have 20% days or 15% days or 10%. So what levels should we be watching?
Yeah, the day after IPO, it actually hit $92, which I didn't see on that daily chart, but looks like there's a ton of resistance right around $80, which is right where we are right now. And we can see it's hit $80 and went down in the past. It's also hit like $81 and went down. So I think anywhere between like 80 and 81 could be a pretty scary time to maybe buy Roblox maybe for an entry. But I think that if we start to break out above 81, it'll be a pretty good trade. Looks like there's another little resistance at like 83. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of like chop in this area, but if we break out above 83.30, it'll be a really good trade. I'm just a little bit worried about like the $80 level and then 81. It's just a little bit worrisome, I think.
Alrighty, let's see what else we have. What are some of the other questions? We have Raphael saying good morning. GME got the $177.50 call last week that expires next Friday, May 28th. So how's GME and AMC doing, Tom? I haven't really been following them too much today. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I remember they were popping a few days ago and people were thinking the squeeze was back. And looks like they are kind of holding a trend pretty well and holding like the 170 support, which is a good thing to see. They might start to pop back up and we might start to see another like, or maybe more talks of a squeeze, I should say, rather than actually seeing a squeeze. I know that the short float's not near as high as it used to be, but it's still up quite a bit. And we're actually seeing GameStop run today. If we go to the 1 minute chart, you can see how much it actually is up. And it might be a pretty good momentum play. I honestly like it off of that 170 support as well. So I think this one looks pretty good if it can keep if it can keep running.
Alrighty, let's see. We have welcome Slick to the stream. He said NTES. Let's check it out. NTES is flat this morning. They had an amazing run throughout the week. They went from about like 105 all the way up to 120. Looks like we're struggling right around that 120 level right now. This is a pretty decent resistance. Intraday, they look decent. They're not like tanking off. They're definitely holding their ground, and I think they look like a decent trade. I'm not sure if you're looking at this for like a long-term hold or like short-term day trade or whatever, but it looks pretty decent for definitely a short-term play right now. And then even if we look at that max weekly chart, it looks pretty solid.
Yeah, it does. I mean, NTES is not terrible. And it's just one of those stocks. It looks like it also is on a really good support at $100, just like we've been talking about with a ton of other stocks. And it popped up a ton up to 120 right now. Looks like there is some resistance coming up, especially around like 128 and 130. So just be a little bit careful for that. We're getting a little close, about 8 points away there. But I will say that a lot of momentum out of the stock, moving well off of supports and the SMAs. And I don't know exactly what this company does fundamentally, but it looks very, very good. And I like how, especially with all the news going on, it hasn't been too volatile. It's fallen just as very slightly from like 130 down to 100. Like we're not seeing these huge 50% drops like we're seeing out of some of these stocks.
Yeah, so he said he's in the 130 strike call options for 618. So yeah, I'd assume like a swing trade, but yeah, it looks pretty solid. I'm not sure like when you entered it, but remember you can always like lock in profits by like selling like the 135 call or like the 140 call and basically create a debit or credit spread depending on your entry and exit price. But it's just a different way to lock in profits. But awesome job there. And with the next question, we have Vicky saying, good morning, guys. I need to keep moving my profits from Boeing. What are some levels for CRSP, NVTA, and Edit? So let's check it out. CRSP, Tom, what do we have?
Yeah, CRSP is looking pretty interesting. It's starting to come down today. I'm not sure I would trade this one. There's a pretty good resistance here around like 119.50. If I go out to like a longer term 15-minute chart, let's go back and see. So yeah, we can see like 120 is a very good resistance level. If we move above that, then look for 125. There is a decent support at 115 where we kind of bounced off of today and came like right back up. So maybe we'll hold this and start to go up. But honestly, it looks like we hit off that 120 level yesterday and have just failed to break out above that. So I personally would not trade it until we broke above 120, but it does look pretty good.
All right, and then with the next one, we have NVTA. NVTA is down a little bit today. What do we have?
Yeah, I'd rather trade NVDA, but no, I'm
Yeah.
just joking. But but yeah, here we go. NVTA. Let's make it break above 28.70. I think that'll be a good level for it. It's hit off of that quite a few times. I do like that it's kind of at support at 26 where it's been bouncing a lot of times. Let's go look at the daily though and check it out. And on the daily, it is pretty low, but like we've seen with a lot of these stocks, they have been all kind of coming down. But this one specifically has not recovered up as much as we've seen like Palantir or some of the others like RUN or Enphase. So I think that there's just better opportunities besides this one.
So then with the last one we have Edit, EDIT.
Edit, yeah, wow, yeah, this one looks pretty interesting. Edit Medicine, I don't know what they do, but I really like it. It's at support at $30 and at the 1,000 SMA. It looks like it's moving up pretty well, and they're down quite a bit from their highs though, so it worries me a little bit, but they haven't fallen below their pre-December levels. So that's what makes me a little happy here is that it's holding the support pretty good, and I think it's a pretty good opportunity to at least get in for the longer term right now. But like I said, I don't know what they do fundamentally. And if they don't do something fundamentally as well as like EV stocks or charging stations, then I'd probably look at those. But overall, it looks like a pretty good setup off support.
Check out VIAC. This is one of my favorite setups. VIAC. They are really popping right now. This looks like a pretty decent like short-term like swing trade, like a call debit spread or something like that. They have resistance right around $42.30, but on a daily chart, I think this thing looks amazing. But we really have to break that resistance though. It has been a strong resistance in the past, right around like 42.30. But
yeah, and this stock got hurt from GameStop, right?
No, this was the Archegos deal. So basically, what happened is there was a giant fund, Archegos Capital, who was so over leveraged. They were like 5x or some crazy number, and then VIAC announced a share offering, right? And then that dropped their stock. And what happened was, basically they announced a share offering that dropped their stock, and then Archegos was forced to sell because they were so over leveraged, and then basically like their entire position got liquidated, which just sank the stock. So yeah, that's what happened. And when you hear over leveraging, sometimes you just think of like like newer traders messing around on Robinhood or like someone like gambling on options, but even these billionaires get really greedy and over leverage their portfolios with margin, and for the most part, it almost like never ends well. Like it's all it takes is one bad trade, one bad setup, one bad event, and you can lose so much money with leverage. So that's basically what happened with this one, and it's starting to pop back up, which is great. But like I just kind of like it for like a short-term swing trade.
Yeah, me too. I think it looks pretty good. It's even like right on support. And I like the story there, Mike. I thought that this was the one that got hurt. I thought that this was a fund that got hurt by GameStop, but I see now what happened. Yeah, I do remember it now that you said that, but it's very interesting. I like it off the $40 support. And I think that it's a pretty good stock overall. And I don't think that it's going to like maybe recover all the way back up to $100 anytime soon. But I think that, like Mike said, it definitely looks like it's going to pop here. And there's definitely a lot of room back to the upside. So I think that it could definitely start to gap if it does.
All right. And then we have Jerry saying TLT. So TLT, when that falls, that means rates are rising. And, bonds move so slow. Like, I love the setup TLT is in. I really like it to the downside. And Michael Burry is in TLT puts too. And I think that should tell you a lot. But bonds just move so slow. It's just boring. Like TLT is down 0.3%, but either way, I like the movement, Jerry. I especially intraday, it gapped up, but now it's starting to come back down, which is good to see. And then we have, we have Corbin saying, I took a small loss on Snap, a small profit on Apple, but Boeing is doing great. Tom, Boeing is exploding.
Man, this was nuts. Citigroup upped their target from $200 to $240 on Boeing, and it looks like they might actually hit that target today. I mean, man, Boeing is just on fire. Not sure it's going to be able to break this high of 236.20, but a lot of momentum here. And man, this was just a great trade from yesterday, and got a little lucky. Citigroup, they called out that target, and man, that's just a great thing whenever you're holding calls.
Alrighty, and then we have M saying Snap is moving. It definitely is. It actually tanked at open, or I don't want to say tanked, but it fell significantly at open, and now it's coming right back up. Their next resistance is right around that pre-market high of $57.74, but it has a lot of momentum, and it had an amazing day yesterday. It broke that high of day you could say like 1 o'clock Eastern time, and then it just exploded on from there. On the daily chart, they look pretty solid too, and I think they have a decent amount of room to pop over the next couple months, especially if the market stays strong. But then we have Corbin saying, how does DraftKings look? Will it break out or go down? So I'm a huge fan of them for the long term. I definitely think that they're going to break out in the long term. And even for the short term, I think that they are going to break out to the upside. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of them for the long term. They're one of my favorite stocks, and they're starting to look pretty good.
Yeah, this is actually looking very good, Mike. I think that this setup is starting to look extremely bullish on this daily chart here. And man, it just hit $40, and ever since then has just been holding its ground very well. I have a feeling that we might not come back to 40. Looks like that this stock is trying to break out. And man, let's go to that 90-day, 15-minute chart. I think that if this stock can start to really, really run above like 45.50 today, I think that we could see a big run out of this. And it looks like it's trying to get there right now. We're only about 25 cents away on the stock. I think definitely watch it. It could definitely have a really good move. So just be very careful. I think that this looks very, very good, Mike. And I like it off that 40 support as well. And overall, like for shares, I think it's even better than calls. But if we break that today, I think calls could be amazing. And you can see how much room this one has back up, even just to the upper resistance here around, let's just say $54. You know, that's a pretty big room, like almost a 10-point gap up to 54. So definitely watch out. And plus, there's like the NBA playoffs going on right now, and that could also help DraftKings.
Alrighty, we have Palantir creeping up there, Tom. They didn't really do much yesterday, but here we go. They're breaking the high of day right now. They broke yesterday's high of day, and they are testing that $21 level. What else do we have? We have VIAC moving. Looks really, really good as long as it breaks that resistance right around 42.30. We have Roblox still exploding. Look at this. This is crazy. Now it's up almost 8%. When we talked about it the first time, it was up around 5.5%. But yeah, it's really moving. IV is exploding. I'm just curious to see. I have to check out some of these weekly calls right now. I mean, these things have to be up like 500%? Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, you would think so, man.
Yeah.
This is nuts out of Roblox, and I wonder what happened. I wonder if there's a big catalyst with them or not. I'll definitely have to look into it.
Yeah, so these call options are up anywhere from 160% all the way up to 1,400% on the day. So that is crazy. It looks like Roblox announced an exclusive launch party with Zara Larson in partnership with 10 Music Group and Epic Records. So it seems like they have like that's the catalyst, obviously. But yeah, it's really popping, and they're just doing really good.
Yeah, and definitely watch for it. Definitely watch for him to break above like 83.41. Let me go to like a longer term 4-hour chart just to make sure. Yeah, definitely look for 83.40 or 83.41. I think that'll be the definite level to watch for today. And it looks like with the momentum we're seeing, it might break that. And if it does, then there's no more. There's really no more resistances all the way up to like $92. So we're in uncharted territory pretty much once we break above 83.40.
Alrighty, now let's see. We have Slick saying, I know we don't do penny stocks, but CTRM rally time. What are your thoughts? So let's check it out. CTRM, we have CTRM down around 0.5% today. And honestly, for a penny stock, I like the setup. I think it's a lot better to buy these penny stocks or just stocks in general. You know, everyone loves to buy when they're exploding up. Like we could see CTRM went from 11 cents all the way up to basically $2. Everyone loves to buy when it's at, $1.20 or $1.40. And sometimes that can be great. But personally, I like to buy like on the second possible move up, like after it already fell, once it's bouncing off support a couple times. So I like the setup. Of course, it is a penny stock, and it is extremely risky. But to be honest with you, the setup itself, so I'm not talking about the company, but the chart setup looks pretty similar to like NIO, you can say, or Enphase, or you can say Palantir, DraftKings. Like I think NIO would be the best example. it had a huge run up from $3 all the way up to 67, and now it's starting to pull back and test that support at $30. So I think from this point, I think you're just in a much better position, like for the long term, if you were to, buy shares at support rather than, when it's running up. And that's just my opinion. So to give you an official answer, I like the setup, but it is a penny stock, and it's super risky.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's worrisome about it, is it's a penny stock because, like you said, it's at support, which is a pretty good thing. And we can see, like, if we go look at let's just go look at Enphase, for example. Like, if you would have bought Enphase at support around, let's just say 124 to be safe, moved up to 143 now. So not saying CTRM is going to explode like Enphase did, but it's definitely good to be buying on support rather than buying up here somewhere at like 180 or 200, obviously.
Tom, you got to check out GME. We're seeing more movement today. It is up around 4% already, and this intraday movement is looking pretty interesting.
Yeah, man, I posted this little trend line on the daily chart here, and it's kind of holding up. It fell below it for a few days, but looks like it's holding it today, and definitely bounced off of it a few times, which is a little strange, just to say the least. It kind of almost like, yeah, it almost just barely touched this and then started to go up. Not saying that this is the factor on GME here, but just a weird trend line to see it kind of moving off of. But I will say, if it moves above 180, I think it'll be better for today. But as of right now, it looks like that it was definitely running up a little bit more earlier. Looks like it's having a little chop here around like 178. So be a little careful intraday. It looks like it's trying to pull back, but if it breaks 178 or 180, I think it'll be an amazing play. And whenever this stuff gets momentum, man, it starts to run. And it honestly, on the daily, Mike, I don't know, it kind of almost looks like a pretty bullish setup. Like, it almost wants to break out again and maybe come back up to $300. And I know a lot of people would have said that that's impossible, but man, we kind of saw it with AMC. AMC was down here at support quite a few times and really broke back up to this high of 14. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, to see it with GameStop. I mean, it really surprised me. No one ever thought it would go from $3 to 483. So obviously it could keep surprising me more.
For sure. All right, so I want to pull up a list real quick. So I was also looking at Beyond Meat. I know we talked about it in yesterday's stream, BYND. Looking at this daily setup, I think it looks really solid, not necessarily in terms of like chance of winning, but more in terms of like risk to reward scenario. I think that, like, if we just look throughout the past, we can see whenever it like does nothing or just like bounces off support for a certain period of time, it's just like a matter of time before this thing skyrockets up. We can see in the past, like, when it like uptrends, like, it just straight up explodes. And like, if we just look throughout the past, like, I'll point out a couple of specific dates, like January of 2021. We have it again in, what is that, August August of 2020. And then we go throughout the past 3 years, again in January of 2020, and then again in, June of 2019. So we can just see, like, it has these like crazy parabolic moves to the upside, and I think there's potential for this with Beyond Meat. I'm not saying that there's a crazy high probability. It's just what I'm seeing on the chart, and in terms of like a risk to reward setup, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I love it. And man, the big thing is even though, it's at support, which is fantastic, it's at a huge psychological support at $100 too. So that even makes it better to me than even if it was at like a 120 support. I think it's better than that. And it looks very defined. It double bottomed on the daily for sure, hit off of it a few times before coming back to the upside. And like you said, risk to reward scenario is amazing here. You could buy in even today at like 109 and then get out if it goes down to like $95. But to the upside, you could maybe target like 160, 180, even 200 if you're being extremely, extremely bullish on it. But man, it's just one of those setups where if you like this company for the longer term and you've been talking about it, or you like a vegetarian food or something, this could be a pretty good add to the portfolio. And I think that going forward, this might be a pretty good hedge against like the overall like food sector, because we see like cows and all that stuff. And I've heard people even talk about cows being like bad pollution or something like that. So watch out, because Beyond Meat could, maybe start to move in the future if like the cows get limited, or who knows. There's been a lot of weird talks with cows.
Yeah, so they have so Beyond Meat has a negative 0.45 correlation to the market. So like even if you added this into your portfolio like a little bit, it'll kind of act as a hedge. Like of course it doesn't have a -1 correlation, so it won't be a perfect hedge, but it's just something to consider at these levels. And then we have Black Star saying, "Good morning, Mike and Tom. Any hope for Tesla today?" Let's check it out. Tesla, I know they were doing really well in pre-market. They're up around 1% right now. They're holding their ground, so they're not tanking off. They bounced off that 585 support very well. I definitely think that there's hope. The major resistance is right around 600, but yeah, I definitely think that there's hope.
Yeah, there's definitely some hope, and I like how it's been coming up the past few days. It is down today, but one thing to keep in mind is it kind of bounced off of the high of yesterday. So it's not like they're really down that much. They're still up 0.83% today. So I think that we might see a good bounce, and 580 is a pretty good support. So hopefully you can hold that today.
Gotcha. All right. Then we have Muscle saying, "Hello, all. I'm still long NVIDIA. Being careful with earnings release on May 26th, but should be a good run up, but might sell right before earnings day. Keep up the great content, fellas." Well, thank you so much for joining the stream, Muscle. And I know you've been talking about NVIDIA for a while now. Like even when it's down, you're still consistent with Nvidia, and I think that's awesome. And I'm happy to see it's popping up for you. You know what I mean? Like a 3.5% update is awesome, and I think that they're an amazing company for the long term. And especially with this split news, I think that's just gonna be awesome for it for the long term. And even if we remember with Amazon, or no, not Amazon, Tesla, and then Apple with their splits last year, like they had a lot of upwards and like positive momentum off of that news.
Yeah, for sure. And especially off the initial news, like whenever the split actually came out, it kind of made the stocks fall. But when you can see the run up on Tesla here, it ran up from like $300 pre-split level. Keep in mind, $300 all the way up to $500. And then once the split actually happened, it went from 500 all the way back down to 350, which was a little bit strange. And if we go look at Apple too, you can see Apple, same exact situation. Man, I can't talk. Moved above $100, ran up to 137, and then fell all the way back down to 103. So I think that that's very smart to kind of play it on the initial run heading into the split rather than like holding through the split, because we can see that once the split happens, it obviously sent Tesla and Apple both down after that. So I do like his strategy here.
Alrighty, and with the next question, we have Queen saying, "Any price target for Tesla today?" So these are always hard because one, Tesla is a crazy volatile stock, but two, there's just a lot of variables that come into place, especially with a stock like this. But if we look at a chart, let me pull it up. I mean, it looks good right now. I would say if we see like positive momentum come in throughout the market, like especially with the QQQ, I would expect to close somewhere around like 600 to 605. But if not, like if we don't see that like positive volume from the market overall, I would expect to close anywhere from like maybe you could say like 595 to like 580. You can say it's really hard to say because Tesla is so volatile, and then the market's been so crazy lately.
Yeah, it does worry me a little bit just because of how extensive the past 2 days have been. It's really moved up well from like 545 all the way to 605, and it's just a pretty good rise. And even though like we're under 600 right now, like Mike said, we could start to come back up and maybe retest that or move above it later on today. But like he said, it's going to depend on the overall market. Obviously, if we start to see the QQQ or the SPY start to sell off, Tesla might start to go down and break the low of day around 585. And if it breaks 585, looks like that was also an area it bounced at yesterday a few times. So if we break that, then I think it would be a pretty good time to maybe scalp some puts, but I wouldn't hold them too long, just quick scalps.
Check out Roblox again. This thing is just going up and up and up. Crazy.
Yeah, man. 83.30. Oh my gosh. It's up 9% now. What was it at? 8% the last time we looked?
Yeah, and then the first time it was like 5.5 or 5%. So this thing is running right now.
Yeah, all morning just going up. And man, that catalyst you said was a little strange with Zara Larson announcing the launch party with the partnership with 10 Music Group and Epic Records. Sounds pretty interesting. I'll have to look into it. I don't know what exactly that is. Sounds pretty interesting, but I'm definitely gonna have to read up on the catalyst because Roblox has been moving very strangely, and it's just one of those stocks where I don't think a lot of people expected it to kind of explode the way it has off of IPO, but in the end, great movement, and it looks like it's a pretty good stock as of right now.
Alrighty, let's see. We have Vicky saying, Tom, would you play Roblox if it breaks resistance at $83.41?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to look at the chart again. I do like it above 83.41. My only concern is that above this level is uncharted territory. If anything, I would look at maybe like selling at 85 if you were going to get in something really quick. Uh, I'm not sure. It's uncharted territory. It could go up to like $92. Who knows? But I think that one thing is that it's already up 9% today. I would almost say that it's not going to go up too much more unless we really see a lot more momentum come into it. But if it does break that, it could be a pretty good momentum play to scalp it very quickly. Personally, though, I like to play different stocks like Boeing, Spy, and others more than stocks that just IPO'd like Roblox. But in the end, though, it's a great stock. It's moving. It just broke 83.41 just now, and I'm hoping it can keep going up because, like I said, that was a very solid resistance. And here we go. It's breaking up to 83.65. So it looks like it could have been good at least for a scalp. And we'll just have to see how much this continues to go. And man, I don't know. Call out in the chat, guys. You guys think it's going to hit 15%, 20%? Who knows? It looks like a pretty big runner.
So here's the thing. Roblox right now, they're up, you could say 10%, right? Or 9.5%. And this is in the 94th percentile of Roblox's moves, right? The thing is like, especially for day trades like this, while I think the setup's great, I don't think it's a smart idea to buy in now. Like, look at this 1 minute chart. It's literally just been going straight up, and it's just a matter of time before this floor falls out. With that being said, what I like to do, and this is just my opinion, it doesn't mean it's right or wrong, it's just my personal preferences. Normally what we see intraday, especially when we have stocks running up, we'll see it run up a lot, and we'll see it pull back, and then it'll retest at highs later in the day, and then continue to break out. Personally, I like to go for more of those, like the second breakout type plays, and actually the hybrid bot calls out a ton of those. So that's just my personal opinion. I just don't like to buy when it's just like when the chart looks like this, when it's just going straight up like 1 minute, like after 1 minute. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just my personal preference.
Yeah, I think that that's a pretty good way to look at it because right now it's just one of those situations where it's up so much that, like you said, there's going to be some chop or some pullback here eventually. Like we almost never see a stock just go straight up all day long. There's always little pullbacks for 15 minutes here or there. And if we do see it go straight up, it was off of a crazy catalyst, something a lot different than this one, I would say. And it's just one of those situations, like you said, it's just you should just be a little bit careful here because it could pull back. And I think I agree, Mike. It would be better to probably not play it right now and just to wait and hold off and maybe get it as it comes down to a support or something like that.
Yeah, because there's so many times like once you stare at charts for so long, like you start to realize patterns, and a lot of times with these moves, like they'll have one move, they'll have one initial run up, they'll pull back, and then they'll run up again, and it's pretty common to see that type of setup. So we'll see what happens with Roblox, obviously. But then we have Corbin saying Tesla calls are outrageously expensive. What is the main factor for that? So this is a great question. And the answer is pretty simple, and that's implied volatility. We can see at the bottom of Tom's chart that blue line represents the implied volatility for Tesla. Right now, that is at 61%. Basically, what that means is the market expects Tesla to fluctuate 61%, or it has a 68% chance of fluctuating 61% from right now until a year from now. And that is pretty high because if we look at a company like Coca-Cola, KO, their implied volatility is 21%, which is pretty low, and it makes sense. Coca-Cola doesn't move like Tesla. It doesn't have crazy news every day. It's more of a slow and steady stock, while Tesla, they have crazy moves and they're all over the place, right? So to answer your question in simple terms, the more volatile a stock is, the more expensive their options will be, and implied volatility is a great way to measure how volatile a stock is. So great question overall. And then we have, with the next question, we have Let's see. We have Vicky saying STNE. Let's check it out.
What's the ticker?
STNE.
Oh, STNE. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, STNE looks like it's running very well off of this bottom support. It actually reminds me of a setup like Palantir or Neo or Zoom or something kind of similar to that. And I will say it looks like a very nice growth stock and off support. Like I said, it looks like Palantir or Zoom. So it might be a pretty good pickup if you like it for the longer term for shares. It is up a little bit right now off that support, but in the longer run, looks like it should be decent. There is a little bit of resistance coming up around like 64.25. So just be a little bit worrisome of that.
Alrighty, and then let's see. With the next question, we have Hunter saying, Tom's getting too excited, his tongue's getting tied. Let's see. We have Muscle saying, agree with you guys on Beyond. We'll add it to the watch list. Are we almost ready for travel and leisure, such as airlines, cruise lines, hotels, etc.? Always look forward to your content. Very relevant. So thank you for that awesome comment. And yeah, I definitely think that those stocks have a lot of potential. I really like AAL. It is kind of like the one of the more like low quality airline stocks, to be honest with you. LUV is in a much better financial position, but AAL has more like potential like for like risk to reward, you can say. But I've been seeing a lot of bullish flow like in those sectors, you can say, like airlines and cruise lines. So I definitely like them over the next couple months. That doesn't mean that they're going to rise tomorrow or anything like that, but I definitely see a lot of potential over the next couple months. And one thing I really like is, over the past, you could say over the past 2 to 3 months, we've been seeing like a lot of selling pressure out of a lot of different stocks, but like especially when we look at AAL or just like other stocks like that, they've really been holding their ground, which shows that like a lot of buyers, we're seeing a lot of buyers come into the stock. So overall, I like it, and I think it has some pretty good potential over the next couple months.
Yeah, and to me, the biggest thing is like, especially with the cruise lines and the airlines, is that whenever they start to finally ease these mask mandates and they start to like let people go to full capacity. I know the airlines are allowed to go full capacity right now, but a lot of the cruise lines like can't even operate. And I just think that once the economy starts to reopen and these rules and regulations start to get laxed a little bit more, people are going to start to really go out a lot more than they're doing right now. And like I said, though, the airlines haven't been doing terrible. They've still been booking a lot of flights. Obviously, they've lost a lot of profit because there's not near as many flights, but the flights that they have are pretty full, which is a good thing to see, at least that they're allowed to go full capacity. But I think that the biggest thing will be like whenever these cruise lines like CCL, once they actually are allowed to get going again, man, I think that these things can explode. And honestly, anything like with CCL under $30, I think is a pretty good time to pick some up. NCLH is another one. Anything with them under $30 is another good time. And I just think that for the longer term, especially like with COVID and just getting rid of some of these rules and regulations, that's just going to make these companies explode. And like the governor of Florida said, why can the airlines why are they allowed to go at full capacity right now, but these cruise lines aren't even allowed to even take off or even offer any passengers? So that's the big thing, is that once they're actually even allowed to have passengers on board at all, then it should be a turnaround for them.
Yeah, so I think it's just a matter of time, to be honest with you. And we might see consolidation for the next couple weeks, or we might see a breakout, next week. Only, no one knows. But I like them for the next couple months, and I definitely have my eyes on them. And then with the next question, we have Vicky saying, really liked your discussion on Roblox. Thank you. Well, thank you for that, Vicky. We have Click saying, do you have a recommendation for the NVDA call option around the split time? Thank you. So let's check it out. NVIDIA is still running up, and let me double check. So they have a 4-for-1 stock split that is set to be split on July 20th. So that's just what Thinkorswim News is saying. Normally, let me look at the chain real quick. So what happens when stocks split is their options become non-standard options, and honestly, it gets kind of messy when we have stock splits, especially on the options chain, because the option fundamentally changes. So it's really hard to say. Honestly, keep in mind that NVIDIA has an elevated implied volatility right now, and they also popped significantly over the past week. So the options call premiums are definitely elevated. if you were to get calls on it, I would strongly recommend to get like a call debit spread to help fight that time decay. Because even if we go out to like, let's say July, well, I mean, if the split's on July 20th, you either have to go with the July 16th expiration or the August 20th expiration. So let's say you went with like July 16th, an at the money call is going to cost you $4,000. So I would strongly consider like selling some of these out of the money calls. Like maybe you buy the 600 call and then you sell like the 700 call to kind of create like a debit spread. So instead of paying $4,000, you're only paying $3,000. You know what I mean? So that's how I would play it. But yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have to fight the time decay because that's all the way out in July. And, even though the split's going to be probably good news, it might not just go straight up till July. And we've seen Tesla and Apple go straight up into their splits. So maybe it can happen, but it's going to be one of those situations where Mike said you're definitely going to have to fight some type of time decay because, all the way out in July is pretty far away. And there's going to be probably a lot of movement between now and then, especially with earnings coming up. And who knows, maybe if they take a little bit of a hit on earnings, that would be a good time to get in for a little bit of a run up into that split. But who knows? I think that the earnings are going to be pretty risky themselves. So definitely watch out.
All right, so we have the QQQ kind of dragging everything down right now. We're not necessarily seeing it tank. We're just seeing it pull back a little bit. And I'm not really too worried about this right now. I personally wouldn't necessarily get puts on this, but we're just seeing like kind of mixed movement. The QQQ is now down 0.03% on the day. We have DraftKings coming down a little bit, Tesla coming down a little bit. How about Boeing? Yeah, Boeing's pulling back a little bit. I know Zoom was pulling back, Palantir's pulling back, and Roblox is even pulling back. So we are pulling back a little bit. I'm not really too worried on it, and I wouldn't really grab puts.
Yeah, and hey, Vicky, this is exactly what we meant with Roblox right here. The floor finally fell out on it, and it did go up above 83.40, which was awesome. It did have that little breakout, but it only went up for a few minutes, and then now it's really tanking back off. So if you did like this setup today, maybe watch for it to come down to support, maybe like $80 or 81, but don't just buy in when it hits. Make sure that you see some more movement back to the upside, because that's what you're going to want is to maybe trade that retest back up to 84.20 or the breakout above that, because right now this is like exactly what me and Mike were trying to explain, is that this can happen. And I hope that this was a pretty good scenario for you to learn, because it's definitely a very volatile stock, and this is what we see happen with a lot of these runners that run like 10% initially off open.
For sure. So I'm actually really glad that we came back to Roblox, and I think that this can be an awesome lesson for a lot of people, because what I just pulled up is the Roblox 80 strike call options that expire today. So these aren't some garbage, super far out of the money calls. Like, these are calls that were $4 in the money. And if we look at these calls from the high where Roblox was at $84.20 to right now, these calls went from $430 all the way down to $262. So that is a significant drop off. And if you were to buy into calls basically at any time in the past, let me get an exact number for you, but if you were to buy into calls at any time in like the past half hour, you would now be down on Roblox. So just like what I don't like about like these setups, like on their first leg up, is the floor can fall at any time, and no one can predict that. But when it falls, like, the options premiums just get melted, and I just think that there's a lot better opportunity like getting it on that second leg. So I'm actually really glad that we came back to Roblox. And another thing to keep in mind is like call premiums fluctuate a lot, so just keep that in mind. And then we have Jerry saying QQQ end of day prediction. He's in puts, so I don't think it's bad. It's just I wouldn't buy the QQQ puts. Like, yeah, like I don't think it's bad. Who knows the end of day prediction? I have no idea.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be very 50-50. And if I had to just make a random guess, I would probably say that it closes somewhere around 330. I don't think that it's going to move too much from where it is today. It looks like it's trying to consolidate right now. I would say, if anything, like, I don't see a huge breakout in the middle of the day unless we see like a big catalyst come out or something. But if it does go up and breaks 330.86, then I would definitely switch over to calls if you were going to trade it. And as of right now, we can see it's kind of coming up. And I was hoping that once it broke that low of day around like 328.80, we would start to see some more downwards movement out of it. Maybe that's what he was seeing when he got those puts, but it's obviously recovered right back up through that. So honestly, I was looking at it for puts too a little bit whenever it started to break that low, but then now it recovered back up. So I'm just going to be more neutral on it today and probably stay away from the puts just given what I'm seeing.
And then Jerry, always trust your gut. You've been pretty hot lately, so always trust your gut. There's definitely potential for it to fall. But then we have, actually, Tom, we have some news that just came out. Let's pull up Bitcoin real quick. It's actually tanking off a good amount. It is at 38,800. And I'm seeing news that China calls for a crackdown on Bitcoin mining and trading. This is pretty big news. Like, this is actually crazy. So, yeah, that's definitely a big deal. Bitcoin is, I don't want to say tanking, but it's definitely falling off of that news.
Yeah, that's a terrible thing to see. And wow, yeah, we're seeing terrible news. I feel bad for Bitcoin. I know we talked about this in the video last night, but I was even thinking about it more afterwards. And I was like, man, like we're seeing so much bad news. Like we have China really hurting Bitcoin. The US talked about taxing people with cryptocurrency. That made Bitcoin fall. We had Elon kind of trolling Bitcoin. And it's just like, is it ever going to stop at this point? It's like it's at 38,000. Hopefully it can keep going down though, because if it can keep going down, then I think a lot more people are going to buy it up at those lower levels. And honestly, like anytime it goes low, it creates better opportunities in my opinion. So I really like that. And it did go to 30,000 the other day. So don't be surprised if it stays somewhere between 30,000 and 40,000 over the next few days, because it's been very, very volatile with some crazy news. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we kept seeing it go down. I'm not sure it's going to break this 30,000 support or not, but it definitely has had a lot of bad catalysts with it, Mike. And I just don't know what to think about it.
The first thing I like look at like in terms of the like stock market is Coinbase. They had a recent IPO or technically DPO, but they're kind of tanking off of this news too. I sold some puts on them this week, and yeah, I might sell some more puts on them. But overall, keep an eye on Coinbase. I know a lot of people were hyping this one up, and even Kathy Wood has been buying into it a lot. But with Bitcoin, no one knows the bottom, but I will definitely be averaging into Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it's just been getting, it's been taking a beating lately. And, no one knows the bottom, but I think the best way to go is just to buy a little bit over time. And then we have Black Star saying, Tesla is stressing me out. Let's check it out. Tesla is, yeah, it's definitely a little choppy this morning. Tom, what levels do we have?
Yeah, I'm honestly looking at let's see, this level 595 looks pretty defined today. I like that as a little bit of an upper resistance. It looks like Tesla is a little bit bearish as of right now. We can see on the 1 minute it has two pretty big red candles right now. Hopefully it can start to bounce and go back up, but I think this low of day around 585 is awesome. So somewhere between 585 and 595 is what I would look at as a range. So make it break above 595 or make it break below 585. And if it does go down below 585, it would also be breaking the 1,000 SMA. I'm not sure that that's going to cause too big of an effect or not, but generally when it breaks that, it likes to run down quite a bit. And I think that with breaking support at the same time, both of those combined will be a pretty good catalyst for it.
Alrighty, then we have Piper saying, good morning. Thoughts on AMD with the NVDA news? Have a 618 option for the 80 strike. So AMD, let's see, 80 strike calls. It doesn't look bad. I don't know. It's definitely not great news. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it that it's holding the support at like 77. Like you said, not sure about it's definitely not good news for AMD in the short term. Anytime like their competitors go up, AMD generally goes down. So if Nvidia flies, we see AMD generally go down. Also, same thing with Intel. If we see Intel fly, AMD goes down. Let's go see if Intel's down along with Nvidia. That'd be pretty interesting. And we can see Intel's actually up, but AMD is a much harsher competitor to Nvidia than Intel is. So I can definitely see why they're down. And honestly, though, I wouldn't think that it would hurt them too much because it's just a split. It's not like Nvidia came out with some new technology or anything like that. even though they've announced a lot of new technology over the past few months, it's not like that they did that today. Honestly, it's just a stock split and just movement. So I would think that maybe AMD could recover. And there's also a pretty good support here at 77.50, and it's on the 1,000 SMA. So hopefully this can hold and be the low of day today, or else AMD looks like it might really tank off. And who knows, we might start to see some more news about AMD and NVIDIA as the day goes on. But as of right now, I think it's just the movement because of the split.
Yeah, and then we have Hunter saying Mara and Riot fell on that too, so that's a great point. Then we have Jerry saying same with NCTY, which is the largest Chinese crypto miner. So this is we're definitely in some interesting times, guys, with the market, but also cryptos. But Tom, what are some of the top stocks you're watching for the rest of the day?
Yeah, I'm really going to be watching the QQQ. This has just been amazing. Honestly, I'm kind of with Jerry. I'm a little bit bearish on it. It keeps breaking this 1,000 SMA in the lows. Honestly, it looks pretty good for puts maybe if it can keep going down. I know he said he might have to cut it if it hits 330, and good thing it didn't hit that. But I will say it looks pretty bearish. It looks like it's going to keep going down, in my opinion. If I was going to grab some puts, if it starts to really leg down below like 328.60, I think it would be a good time, but definitely make it break the low, because we can see there's a lot of chop right here. It's having some green momentum, so definitely make it break that. But I think that's going to be the main watcher today is big tech. You know, a big tech generally runs the market, and if the QQQ and big tech, especially like with Tesla and others, can keep going up, then I think it'll just be great for the market overall and send the market maybe back up to highs. So like if we go look at SPY, maybe we could retest 418. And with QQQ, if Tesla and them start going up, it can retest 330. But definitely watch out, because if it starts to go down, it looks like it could be a pretty good play for puts.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining the stream. Thank you guys for asking great questions. We really appreciate you guys joining and asking questions. And we hope you guys have an amazing rest of your trading day and have